Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast of the Dark Future. My name is John the Wise, and I'm here with my boy Luke the Goon, aka the Dark Future. How you doing, Luke?
Pretty good. I'm getting over the cold, but that's why we haven't had an episode in a little while. But we got a big episode for you guys today.
Yeah, we have an extra special episode for you guys because we have our first guests, and I say that plurally because there's two of them. We have with us John Kovaleski and Aaron Dill of Monster Fight Club. That's right. How you guys doing?
We're great. How are you?
Doing well.
All right. It's great to have you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's an honor to have you guys with us to talk about everything that you guys do. And are you guys familiar with Cyperpunk Red? I think you are.
Just a little.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah. It's something that, I personally have been thinking about for a while. Then when they started talking about the possibility of having CD Projekt Red doing some games, I got super excited because I'm a huge Witcher fan.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was something that I've been bouncing around in my head for a while, wanting to kind of look into. And I said, "Oh, this would be super cool to do a game based on it and whatnot." And then, lo and behold, friends of friends were good buddies with Mike Pondsmith, and we ended up meeting at a con, and next thing you know, we're doing stuff.
That's so awesome. Are you guys, without sharing your age or anything like that, are you guys kind of in the same class, as you would call it, as Mike Pondsmith and that crew? Old school veteran D&D or tabletop gamers?
So we were actually looking up some dates and trying to see when things were coming out and kind of dating our stuff. So I have no problem to tell you that I'm a whopping 50 years old.
Oh, beautiful.
So I got out of high school in '87. So when Cyberpunk and and Johnny Mnemonic and all that stuff was going on, that was all between end of elementary, middle school, up through high school. That's when all that stuff was kicking and going well. Doing my power gaming on my Atari 400 and stuff like that. So,
hell yeah!
I remember my 300 baud modem that used to plug into the joystick port. And you'd have X modem protocol, and you'd be looking at the screen, and you would see your packet of 255 characters come rolling by, and then it would do a checksum, and it'd be wrong, and then it would do it again, do a checksum, and be wrong, and do it again, and then hey, it worked.
And we have it so good.
And this is Aaron here, and I'm a little younger. We're about 10 years younger than John, and definitely grew up to totally. So I was young enough that I was a kid when Neuromancer, Snow Crash, the original Cyberpunk stuff was all being released, because that was my middle school bread and butter. That's what I grew up reading. Was the early Cyberpunk genre novels.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then have continued through today.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. So you guys were around that same area. I'm in my mid-30s, so we got the full spectrum here going on. But I definitely want to know more about you guys' history and with Monster Fight Club, because really it's an inspirational story just on paper without even delving too deep into it. But John, you ran Gale Force 9 for 20 years, and Aaron, you were working with him, right? You guys worked together on games like Spartacus, A Game of Blood and Treachery, Star Trek Ascendancy, and all kinds of other D&D type stuff. I really just wanted to ask you guys, what made you think that you could leave that company and do better than them? It's a scary thing. I'm sure people were like, "You're crazy doing what you're doing." Tell us about what gave you guys the confidence to do what you guys are doing now.
I don't think a lot of it is confidence. I mean, we've been doing it for 20 years, so it's not like it's hard. So let's back up a little bit. We'll give a little background.
Yes, please.
So Gale Force 9 was founded in my basement in Charlottesville, Virginia in 1998.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So that was,
So you were the founder of it. You weren't just an employee.
Oh yeah, no. We created it. We drew the logo on paper. It was.
This is like Gary Gygax in his basement type shit, man.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah,
I had the misconception that you guys were working for like a larger company, and we're like, we could do better.
No. we created the company and ran with it, and then I guess was it 7-8 years ago, Battlefront offered to basically merge with us and buy it out. So we took a thing, and at that point, I became, I ended up running Gale Force 9, basically the studio.
Okay.
And we kind of went from there. But so let's back up. 1998. At the time, I was a captain in the Merchant Marine sailing oil tankers.
Oh.
And my hobby was gaming. So we were playing GW stuff. I had my old my Dark Angels army kicking, and
hell yeah.
And hanging out at the local game store and doing other stuff around town. And Aaron at the time was
I was working at Games Workshop at the time.
Yep. So I was actually an outrider back in the day.
So I worked with the Grand Tournament Games Day team organizing events. So I was traveling around, and at some point during my travels, met John, who happened to live in the town where I grew up, Charlottesville.
No.
So we hit it off, and then so John, after founding it, I was Gale Force 9's first employee.
Yep, back in the day, and we use that loosely in that before Gale Force 9 was never meant to be a business. It was a hobby that got out of hand.
Oh, of course, you can't get into stuff like what you guys are doing, thinking, "Oh, we're going to make boatloads of money."
So where we ended up starting, it wasn't even about money. So a good friend of mine, Matthew York, who back in the day was probably one of the winningest most tournament players in the Games Workshop tournament circuit. So he was a big Skaven player and did all kinds of other stuff. And he was super well known in the community. And, him and I used to hang out. He also went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy like I did. So we were college buddies. And we started Gale Force 9 with the money we made from selling our Magic cards back at Tempest.
Oh, that's an ultimate origin story, dude.
So we had, we ended up selling our pile of cards for like 10 grand. Hindsight, had we kept them, they would have been worth a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Of course.
And rolled that into Gale Force 9 and bought ourselves a laser engraver when they were brand new, first came out. This universal 30-watt laser engraver, which I still have, by the way, the same one, and it still works. And so we created the business, and if you look at the web domain gf9.com, 3 digits, that shows you how long ago it was, because you could still grab something like that when it was out there. And it all kind of started where it started with Matt saying, hey, we should do some stuff with this laser, and we're sitting there playing around, and it started off with the old GW templates. We're like, the flobby things, even before the plastic, where you had to get it out of the back of the book, and you basically had to do a Xerox copy of it and cut it out.
Oh my god!
Play with it on cardboard. So at the time, I was like, hey, we can cut plastic. Let's cut the shape out. And then, so we were using those for our own personal use, still not intending to sell anything. And we ended up cutting some holes in the center of them, and we had them all tied together on a string. And one day we dropped it, and they all kind of landed on each other looking like an ice cream cone. And the multi-template was created by that little piece of inspiration, which was kind of the flame template with, the 3 and the 5 inch round blast laying on top of it with, and then we started adding functionality. Hey, let's put some 45-degree markers on it to show the front. Let's put some measuring devices down the side. And that's how it kind of started, was making that one template. And we put together a website to see if it would work. And even before that, Matt just would take it to tournaments, and then he would win. He would run a grand tournament. And it was kind of like having Michael Jordan wear your shoes.
Oh, that's so cool, man.
They were like, dude, where'd you get that? I'm like, oh, our company, here's a card, written out on a napkin, basically. And next thing you know, we would sell a couple. I remember the first web order we got, for $10. We're like, woohoo, we're making it. And, the next thing you know, every time he would go to a tournament, we would, he would then cut 20 or 30 of them, and we'd bring them with us. and we would sell them there to kind of pay for the trip. So you
Oh,
sell
wow.
30 of them and you made $300, and that paid for gas and, hotel room and everything else. And we kind of grew that way. And then I don't know, I'm going to date myself some more. They used to have the battle tour with Games Workshop. They would take the van and drive it up and down the coast. And Sean Swigert was the guy that came up with that idea. And really good friend of ours. And, he was also one of the, I could argue, one of the main pieces of inspiration for everything that we did here, for sure, going all the way through. And he was just out there. So he ended up, as an outrider, I'd be off, I'd work on a ship 6-7 months, and then I'd take 3 or 4 months off. And he's like, "Hey, you got the summer off. Do you want to ride around in the van with me and visit stores as an outrider?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" So, I ended up doing that, and it worked out really well, because I would go and, I'd take templates with me. So I'm visiting stores and I'm leaving templates behind with the website laser engraved on them, and next thing you know, we start getting orders on the thing. And it went from, hey, we made $20. Hey, we made $100. Hey, we made $1,000. Holy crap, we're at 10.
That's so cool.
And the next thing you know, you're doing 6 figures. And what else can we do? And maybe it's worth not jumping on a ship. Maybe I should take a couple more months off, because I'm doing pretty well right now. And I can't keep up with it myself. And Aaron was always hanging out. Anyway, he's coming over to play and whatnot. And I offered him a job, and he jumped on it. And then
it sounds like a lot of your success was just out of accident and kind of just a coincidence, because really you guys were just so ingrained in the culture of miniatures anyway, and whatever was around it, that you just like accidentally became the guys that made the miniatures for everybody, because really you were just trying to be a part of this culture, right?
I think a lot of our products came not by accident, but by trying to fill some need that was out there. Games Workshop used to have crappy templates, so we made better templates. Our very first licensed product ever with Gale Force 9 was, I had gotten really into War Machine, back when War Machine was brand new. And, it had all these tracking, all these status things that you needed to track of what was damaged or shocked or frozen or whatever. It's like, hey, let's use the laser and make some cool tokens to track all these status effects in War Machine. And so I made, it came out of a need something we wanted for our own gaming. And then it's like, well, if we want this for ourselves, let's sell it to other people too.
Yeah, that's always the key to like a very successful business, is to fill a particular niche of something that somebody needs,
Yeah, before we ever made any board games, I mean, the first 5-6 years of Gale Force, after I started,
just accessories and add-ons.
Yeah, it was wound tokens and turn counters and templates and scenery markers and
and there was, we couldn't find good super glue that we liked, so we brought super glue to the market. We couldn't find a pair of clippers that would cut through brass, so we went and sourced some clippers. We literally, when we were doing the GF9 tool range for the first time, we all had our toolbox. We all brought it in, and everybody dumped our stuff out on the table. And we're like, all right, everybody have one of these? Yep. Everybody have one of these? Yep. And then let's go out and see if we can find something better. And
I just posted a link for Warhammer 40K vehicle status tokens from
this is
Gale
old
Force
school.
9.
Yep.
So I was going to ask you, how old is this thing?
Oh, God.
those are probably 15 years old.
Maybe.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
So those I'm gonna give a little trade secret here.
Yeah.
So before anybody was doing color tokens or anything else that was out there, there was no like printing on plastic and that sort of stuff. And those tokens that you're looking at there that have the really cool chrome.
Yeah.
That was acrylic mirror.
Oh shit.
And we burned away the mirror, except for the words, and then we spray painted it with black paint.
So you guys could have taken like a cheapy option, but you didn't want it to be cheapy. You wanted it to be just on its own. When someone looked at it, going, "Whoa, what the hell is that?"
Exactly. And then everybody was all excited. It's like, "Oh my God, you have felt on the back. It's so great." And we're like, "Well, they felt great, and they wouldn't slide, and we loved it. But the reason we put felt on the back was because you would scratch them if you didn't put something on the back." So we were like, what could we put on the back that would be cool?
I get it. That's so cool. And it looks like you guys had to make it seem like it's a generic thing, probably because of licensing issues.
Oh, there were all kinds of licensing issues. I was one of the people, God, 20 years ago that, when Workshop was going after everybody.
I
They-
thought you guys would have like some kind of alliance because they appreciated you guys. They didn't really look at it that way.
And we did with a lot of other companies.
Yeah, and believe me, I tried, and they went down the road. Now, granted, today it's a completely different animal. This is 20 years ago.
Of course.
Back then, they send me the letter, and I didn't deal with attorneys back then. I was like, this is scary. So you start looking at it to see, we demand this, and we're going to sue you for 3 times damages and all this kind of crap. And their argument was that because we're making accessories for their game, if their game didn't exist, our product wouldn't exist. Therefore, you are infringing on our copyright. That was their argument.
Wow,
that's terrible.
And then I went back and thought about it, and I'm like, so let me get this straight. So if you make a Camaro and I sell hubcaps, if the Camaro didn't exist, there's no reason for the hubcap. That's their argument. And I'm like, to use the English, bugger off.
Yeah.
And I was one of the first people to fire back with my own. I'm like, you want to fight? Let's fight.
Yeah.
I've never been afraid to back down. And that's, and then eventually both sides just backed off of each other. And because nobody wins when you have a nuclear war going on.
Yeah.
And so I learned where the lines were. And then I learned how to do it properly, and how to go out and get a licensing deal, and how to do it correctly. And it's funny that same lesson, you deal with it even today.
Yeah.
Today it's a little different. I'm on the other side of it. We come out with cool ideas, and then with 3D printing and everything else, how quickly people rip you off and take your ideas and run with them.
But it's absolutely better to have the official stamp of approval on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether or not War Machine or Cyberpunk, when you walk into a store or you log on to a website and see that official brand, it's not just branding. People sometimes use branding in a derogatory way, but it's a seal of approval. It means that the company behind this, behind Cyberpunk, behind War Machine, what have you, it means that they think it's good enough to represent them. It's a seal of approval, and I think that that's important for a reason.
It is important, and I think too. We've always been about quality. It's there are companies out there that just dump stuff out as quickly as they possibly can, and they're trying to make a buck. For us, it was really never about the money. It was about just making something cool to people. And I always felt that if you did a good job at something, everything else would take care of itself, and it did.
And that's still true even now. I mean, the Scenery Kickstarter, jumping forward 20 years, the Scenery Kickstarter that we finished in the spring,
in April,
it was very much, we're really not happy with all the trees that are on the market. We want better trees for our tabletops. Let's make the coolest trees we've ever seen, and we think other people are going to like them too.
Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of people did like them. You guys got $214,628, and you're asking for $30,000.
Yeah, so that was a pleasant surprise. Even more pleasant is, we almost did that again on the backside.
Wow,
so crazy!
Through the pledge manager. So
that's all the validation you need, right?
Exactly. So suddenly you're like, all right, obviously there's a need. This is great. One of my mantras has always been, if you cater to the laziness of others, you can make money. So when we were making laser cut wooden movement trays for a Warhammer, people can make movement trays. That's not hard. People can make good trees. People can do other things. But as I get older, the thing I can't make more of is time. So if anything that I can do to make part of my gaming experience happen faster and look better and not have to spend my resources there, as you get older and you do a little bit better in your career or whatever, you start making a little bit more money. I'd rather trade money for time
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do right now. So the terrain side of stuff, being able to do the trees with the removable canopies, so they all got, double action going through, and doing the rocks that things are flat so you can stack stuff on, and having it all pre-painted so you don't even have to deal with it. It's as far as it's a good paintable standard right out of the box to throw down. And so when you lay all that out on a table, it's just a better thing. It's like, companies only showing painted versions of their models on. Most people don't get their stuff to that standard.
Yeah.
Especially you go down to the local game store and everything's primed, and some people's hobby is collecting. Some people's just other people are painting, they don't like to play. But everybody aspires to that one certain level.
Well, I can see that from what you guys are talking about and everything, and your upbringing with all of this, is you guys are looking at it from the standpoint of the person that's passionate about all these miniatures. It's not just, hey, let me just fill in a niche that I know that I can fill. It's let's fill in the niche, but also have respect for the people that love these things and make something a quality product, because that's what we're all about. And you don't see that a lot,
For the entire time we've worked together, I feel like the other question we always ask is like, would you buy that? Like, ask of each other, like, would you buy that?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd buy that. Like, it's cool, but like, I wouldn't buy it. Like, oh yeah, I'd buy that. That's cool. I'd buy that. If that's, it's whether or not we want to buy it. It's not whether, and if we want to buy it, if we think it's cool enough that we'd drop $20 on it, well, other people will probably agree to. We're not special snowflakes. Like, if we think it's cool, other people will too.
Yep. I know. We're our attitudes and our politics and everything else in the office are very diverse. We have a very eclectic group of people that all hang out, and we have some wicked arguments trying to get things ironed out where we're ready to start swinging baseball bats and doing stuff. And what we learned through the years, it's really hard to come to consensus when we're happy with something and we all agree. But when we do agree, it tends to be special. And that's when the product does really well. So, sometimes it goes 2-3 months before we narrow something down. We've gotten to the point where, I have felt stuff is ready to go, but I haven't convinced everybody else yet. So then you end up shelving it for a little bit. And then,
so you guys keep yourselves grounded. You guys keep yourselves, focused on what's important.
And that's a hard moment when you bring something to a group that you think is really cool, and the other 4 people at the table kind of give you the side eye. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, thankfully you have those people, man, because you don't want a bunch of yes men telling you something's amazing. You put it out there, and that's the best part about it.
Yeah, so I guess with the did you guys feel that you weren't able to do some of these things with Gale Force 9, or what was the initial idea to create Monster Fight Club and kind of leave Gale Force 9?
So I think a little bit. So I mentioned Sean before, Sean Swigert. So Sean passed away 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago at Christmas, and we were all. It's one thing when you have a company, it's your company, and you run it. And after I sold the business, and you start working for another company, and it's kind of like a marriage. At first it was a lot of fun, and then over time it started feeling like a business.
Yeah,
it started feeling like a job.
Yeah,
and when I owned the business, and it was always my business. I didn't have partners. When I owned the business, it was just more fun when I didn't have to ask permission to do things. Yeah, I just wanted to. If we could all agree on, let's run. I have to do that. And then I think after a couple of years of working under somebody else and having to justify what you do, and having to follow a budget, not being able to do things because the money isn't there, money's been allocated to something else, or having to wait. Everything bogged down, everything got slow. it wasn't as fun as it used to be. And then after Sean passed away, I think a lot of us our heart wasn't in as much because he was such a big part of the entire operation that, you didn't have that guy he is a super creative guy. So, I would routinely have an idea, throw it at him. And I'm like, hey, just put this in your head and stew on it. And I mean, we had piles of stuff. And a lot of times, even when we were doing game design and stuff, it wasn't about making a particular game. It was like, wouldn't it be cool if you had this card that did that? And that is the one thing that you would write down and remember. And eventually down the road, the opportunity to use that thing would pop back up and we would all remember it. And I'd say Sean's superpower, give somebody a superpower, was you think we're geeky and hell no. He was so ingrained.
Dude, there's another level past you guys?
Oh god, it's beyond that. It's take 3 levels back. The most obscure reference that you could think of. And he would just know it. You'd walk around Gen Con and someone would, they have they're giving away free stuff. Name the character in this game that this happened.
No way.
And he would just go, blah. And it would be there.
I bowed to his nerdosity.
and that's what he did. And he had a very particular a way he liked to do things. The other thing that he was really bad, it's been said about the company back then, was I was kind of dad and Sean was kind of mom. I had a short temper. I could get angry really quick. If you had to come to my office, there was probably a problem because I didn't want to deal with it. I wanted to deal with my own stuff. Sean was a wonderful diplomat.
Yeah.
That could take everybody's good, bad, and ugly and mix it all together. Work.
God, talk about hard to fill those shoes once he was gone,
Yeah, so a year after, so a year ago, we kind of all came to a decision. I'm like, I just think we're ready for something different. I mean, it's not that different. We're still making nerdy stuff. We're still making games, but
kind of a return to your roots in a lot of ways.
Grassroots,
And that entrepreneurial startup spirit, it's pretty different than 9 to 5 sort of.
Something I was going to ask about that is when you left, did Kickstarter play a role at all? Like you kind of knew, like if we go to Kickstarter, we could probably get some money to do this. Did that help at all? Was that a factor at all when deciding to form Monster Fight Club?
Oh, it's an absolute thing with Kickstarter the way it is right now. I think Kickstarter is the great validator. Nothing says if something's going to work if someone's willing to pay for it.
Yeah, when the cash is there, they're like, yep, people like it.
Yep, and for good or bad, if you don't have money, you don't have a company.
Yeah,
and when, like Aaron said, it's going to be a year on Halloween that we left. That's our anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So we announced to the world on Halloween last year the Monster Fight. We thought that was appropriate. Monsters and Halloween.
Yeah.
So that was kind of our announcement. But even before we did it, it wasn't a global decision to all leave and start the company. Aaron's like, you know what? I want to do something different. And you were the first.
Yes, I left first, and then it was a couple months later.
Yeah, so
Aaron, I left in August.
Yeah,
you're brave.
Yeah, so he left, and a lot of it too is it's safety nets. He's got a wonderful wife who has a good job, so it gave him a bit of a safety net.
That's good. So, I mean, I can relate with that. I have a 1-year-old son. I have a family. I'm the sole provider. So for me to just leave something that's working right now is such a giant risk. And it's really inspirational to see you guys taking that risk. So I would love to hear more about it.
Yeah, I mean, and like John was saying earlier, that you can do both for long enough that until you have to make a decision. About the same time that I started at Gale Force 9, I also started a portrait photography. And that was really I was doing both for a while, and that was really successful. And at some point, they both were so successful, I had to pick one. It's like I'm just working too much. I just don't want to be working this much. So I kind of let the let the photography slide to focus on Gale Force 9. And I think, anybody who's interested in starting any sort of business, gaming otherwise, I think it's good counsel to keep your day job for 6 months, for a year, start doing the other thing in the evenings, on the weekends. And once you get to the point where you'll know if the new venture is going to be successful or not.
Yeah.
And once
you'll know the brass tacks of it, right?
Yep. Yeah, and once you'll get to that point where you have to choose. For John, it was choosing between shipping and Gale Force 9. For me, it was choosing between Gale Force 9 and photography. Yeah, but you get to that point where you're doing multiple things. One thing is really taking off, and think, I'm going to focus on that.
And sometimes it's not even taking off. Some of it, is it good enough, and am I having way more fun doing that than the other thing? And I think that was a really big piece of it. So, before I bolted, everybody's got their side gig. So I was doing engineering consulting. I was actually doing some stuff for Sabra, the hummus company, and a couple of other companies. When 3D printers first came out, I was really big on investing profits back, and made it easier to be able to write things off rather than paying taxes. So you could buy more equipment and have tax write-offs. So when we got into the 3D printers, and then I started hiring people, God, CAD guys are really expensive. So I taught myself CAD, and I really liked it. And so once I got really into doing the CAD work, there's no better way of learning how to do a new thing than to have someone pay you to learn. So
that's so cool.
I'm not afraid to throw services out there and see if someone will pay me for it. So, I was giving people a good value. I was slow because I was learning, but, and I'd probably take me 5-10 times longer to do things than other people because I was still trying to learn how to do it. But it was, it justified my time while I was doing stuff, and it was stuff that I was doing anyway, So am I going to sit there and work on a cup in CAD, or do I want to design some cool space age car that can be something? I'm going to be doing the same clicks anyway, so if I can get paid for it, why not?
Yeah, of course.
So that's how that kind of rolled out. And then my side gig got to the point where I ran out of time. Once you start working 16, 17-hour days, it gets old. And you're like, which one am I going to pick when it goes through? So in my mind, for Monster Fight Club, it was, I've got a gig that I can do. I'm not going to star. That's not a problem. And don't get me wrong, I did when the business sold. So
yes, so it looks like you guys had an amazing reputation once Gale Force 9 got going. You started Monster Fight Club, and everybody that was in the know knows that, hey, it's the same guys. They just started a new company, probably have a new fervor for everything. And that's, I think, around the time that Artel Soren contacted you guys and talked to you. Am I correct?
Yes. So Mike Pondsmith, that's
he's the man,
the head honcho.
He's the man, the guy that created the RPG, and he was at Gen Con, and a joint friend of ours says, "Hey, Mike's going to be there. Go say hi for me." So I didn't know him yet, and I went up, introduced myself, told him what I did. Our joint friend called up on the phone, kind of made a nice warm introduction for us. And we started talking about things, and he was a huge fan of Gale Force 9 terrain. He was buying stuff. Mike himself's a huge gamer. So Mike was buying our games. Mike was buying all of our modeling things. He was buying the old trees and the mats and the hobby tools and stuff, us back in the day. And, we've done a lot of collectible statues, and we've done a lot of things for other people, helping other companies with their plastics and helping other people get some design work done. So I had a big portfolio, on my phone that you can show pictures of.
Yeah.
So I said, "Hey, check this out, check this out, check this out." And then, his eyes started getting nice and big. He goes, "That's great. This is great." And I said, "I would love to do something for Cyber." He's like, we should talk about it. So we went and I'm more of a act and nonverbal kind of guy, rather deeds than words.
Yeah.
So I went and had a couple of figures made on spec just for fun real quick.
Wow.
And I said, "Hey, what do you think of these?" And he's like, "Oh, those are great. I said, excellent. So I can do the rest of them. And long story short, we ended up being there. So so we signed a licensing deal to do that and Witcher stuff, which is exciting.
That's so cool.
So that has been our super heavy focus since last year. So we've got a team working on the miniatures. We've got a team that we use to do all of the monster scenery that we did. We did our Tentacle Town Kickstarter, which is the project that Aaron started working on when he first left. So that was our first board game that wasn't licensed that we came out with.
Mm-hmm.
So that came out great. And then we've got 2 or 3 other games in the pipeline right now. We'll see what we talk about as we continue today.
I'm sure there's stuff you guys
Yeah.
can't talk about as far as Cyberpunk goes in the future of it, but we'd love to hear whatever you guys could talk about.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm literally sitting next to boxes of 3D prints of miniature prototypes. We're up to dozens of sculpted miniatures at this point.
Yeah, we're rapidly approaching 50 finished models right. I'm not going to give a number, but it's a big pile that's coming. And we showed off Gen Con this year. We showed off about a dozen or so that were painted up. Aaron's a very accomplished painter in his own right. And then Matt Parks, who is 7 Demon Slayer swords. Matt's a part of our team now too, and he does a lot of our painting. He's based out of the UK, and he helps me manage the sculpting. He helps me do. He's a super creative guy on his own. So between all of us guys that have been, he was with Workshop 10 years, and then he was at Battlefront for like another big chunk of time. So the people that I enjoyed hanging out with and talking over the last 20 years, you don't want to hang out with so bring your friends in and say, hey, we got some ideas, we want to do some new stuff and run down. And Cyberpunk is just so cool because you sit back and you're just like, no one's ever done a figure like this, or no one's ever done a figure like that. And then you also have archetypes. You start going through and it's like, so we're doing solos. We have one guy, one of our fixers, who is that the iconic guy who opens his trench coat and has the loot hanging in there. So we got one guy. So the trench coat's sitting there, and this guy's got this really cool cowboy-esque hat with this trench coat. He's got the trench coat open on the side, and there's 12 different weapons hanging down the inside of his coat, like sitting there to you as things are going on. You got another figure, and next to it is the ammo cases that you pop them up and see all the cool stuff that's hanging in. We've got the press is really, because we've got guys with steady cams.
Those are my favorite. The medias with the giant cameras and stuff. I love those ones that were there.
You got those, and I don't know if you noticed the guy in there with. So you got the drone pilot that's over there launching the drone up in the air, so you can have drone swarms and stuff. And then we were like, all right, so what do animals look like 50 years from now? Let's take some German shepherds and cyber them up to see what that might look. What does a gang dog look? What does someone in a stretcher look? What does it look like when the trauma team shows up? And so you get to take the old school stuff. And what's super great about this is the fact that Mike is there. You're like, Mike, what would a drone look like? Mike, what would this look like? Mike.
It's crazy. It's crazy how involved. It's so crazy how involved he is with everybody. He's there with CD Projekt. He's there with you guys, and really just making sure that everybody takes care of his brand. And
it's not just the brand. He's got so many other projects in the works too. He's all over the place, and I hope when he's older than I am. I hope when I get to where I have half the energy.
Oh yeah, and have you heard him talk? As soon as you turn on the camera or start recording, he's just like you. He just goes.
Yeah, his eyes light up.
And he's got that James Earl Jones voice.
Yeah,
awesome.
Such a good voice.
Sit back and you're just like, I can't believe I'm hanging with this guy. It's so.
I know that's kind of what I wanted to ask you next. Is you guys are what seems like the perfect people to work with for Mike because he's an old school gamer, and like you said, he buys all the miniatures. He's even told Luke that he reads everything on Reddit. He watches all the videos, so he's entrenched in all this. Do you think that he wanted to work with you guys more because he felt akin to you guys because of that whole like kinship that you guys have?
I would love to say that's the case, but that's probably a question for him because I don't want to speak for the man because
For sure.
he is a legend. But I do know that him and his lovely wife and his kid. It's a family business.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we were just talking about that before you guys came
Yeah,
on about how much of a
exactly right.
family business that Artelsorian is.
Yep. So they hang out and it's a small team, and it's like us too. It's a small team, so you tend to get overwhelmed. I think when you have really creative people, it's hard sometimes to focus on one particular thing. I know I'm horrible for that. I get excited about one thing and I will take it to, all right, I figured it out. And now I don't want to deal with it anymore. Let's go on to the next thing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, it's like, yeah, but now's the time you got to get out there. Now's the time you got to start doing the marketing. Now's the time you got
Yeah, I get it.
And
So-
that's the important part.
Do you guys do any tabletop gaming yourselves? Do you have like a Saturday gaming crew that you guys play tabletop games with or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I have two different groups that I get together with regularly for board games and tabletop games. And then my wife and I met 20 years ago because of a shared interest in playing Settlers of Catan. So my wife and I have a mega collection of two-player games, and that's our normal evening entertainment is to pull out a board game. So yeah,
Nice.
I probably am playing something 3 nights a week. So and then filling in the gaps with video games.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same thing. I work way too much.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's not, sometimes it's 7 a.m. I'm in the office and 9 and 10 roll around at night and the wife is like, are you going to come home? Yeah, I'm like,
you live here.
but I tend to really get into something for short bursts of time. So, new Call of Duty comes out. All right, leave me alone for a week. That's my thing, or, the new Oculus Quest popped out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to live in VR for a while. Or, I get back into my motorcycle. And so weather's beautiful. So I just want to get up Blue Ridge Parkway and drive around a few days. So I kind of jump around different stuff. Having, relatively a new company coming out. So it's everything we're doing, we've done before. So it's not like we're reinventing this, not as far as product, but as far as how do you get a hold of a distributor? How do you sell to a retail store? How do you do a sales sheet? Those are things that we've been doing forever. But it was one thing, where, you end up where you get absorbed by a company that's got 100 plus people and you can, everybody else is kind of doing their chunk of it. And you get to focus on the creative stuff. Suddenly we all had to wear the business hats again.
Yeah.
The creative stuff to some extent is the easy part. I mean,
For us anyway.
we can go out to lunch and an hour later have a list of 20 different things that would be cool to do. The trick of it is picking which of those 20 ideas you're actually gonna take to the 100% packaged for sale on a shelf somewhere. The ideas is the easy part. And I think that's something for anybody out there who's interested in starting up something or has an idea, to just realize that to some extent the ideas are the easy part. You gotta make a prototype. You gotta make a product that's cool. You gotta play test the game and you gotta turn it into something. The idea isn't enough. You gotta work pretty hard to get it from the idea phase to the holding an actual thing that is fun in my hands phase.
And Aaron's really good. When we're doing board game stuff, I will take a bunch of notes and I'll talk in my phone and I'll have a whole bunch of stuff. But getting it to the point where I have a playable version with something down on a piece of paper that I can hand to somebody, I'm not real good at that. Aaron shows up, a couple of weeks later afterwards, and he's got the whole documented out, and It's already in white card, and it's like, hey, let's try this out.
Oh, it's so good to have someone like that.
And then we'll play it, and then it goes back and forth. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes we tweak it, and sometimes the original idea morphed into something completely different, and that's just way cooler. So we end up doing with that. Because time is the commodity, that's hard. We're pretty good at making a, it's the whole Brian Boitano thing. You make a plan and you follow through. Once we make that plan, we'll follow through to its detriment sometimes, but you need to follow through. It's having 10 plans going at the same time bogs things down. That's where I'm not very.
And certainly back to the Cyberpunk miniatures with that idea of and our plan is to have a complete range of figures. You can, whatever encounter you want to set up on the tabletop, you want to have a street gang knocking over a noodle cart, we'll have the street gangs for you. We'll have the noodle cart chef for you,
I was gonna ask you that, like, D&D, there's a bestiary at the end of the book, and it's like all the ideas are there. With Cyberpunk, it's literally endless. You can do anything. Anything can be cybered, and it's anything that you see in the world around you. So how do you guys battle that kind of challenge?
Well, I think in a world that is endless like that, you start from the sources. You know, in the Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart kit that came out, you know, there's 8 really cool sounding street gangs that are described in the Jumpstart kit. You know, there's a basic encounter table, all the different encounters you might have. You know, and to some extent, we're going to give you the tools to create your own fun. If you want to take our figures and chop an arm one and build a new arm out of plasticard or swap an arm from one figure to another, absolutely, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But you got to give people the tools and the starting point to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just like John was saying about time is a limiting factor, and, you know, it's never a bad idea to play on the laziness of others. I think that sounds awesome to spend a year hand sculpting and, you know, a set of amazing miniatures and customizing every single one. But if you just want to pull out a box of stuff on a Friday night and play a game in 3 or 4 hours, you know, cool, we've got you. Like, you don't necessarily not everyone has time to customize everything or scratch build anything. You know, it's good to have a library, you know, dozens of figures that you can put to. That can be your inspiration for a creative scenario.
So are you guys doing vehicles and terrain as well? I know at Gen Con you guys had the motorcycle and you had a couple different props. I think there was a couch and a TV. Yeah.
We're, you know, Mike gave us a list of, you know, these are the things at minimum I would like to see. And beyond that, he's like, you know, if you think it's cool, you know, let me know what your idea is and I'll give you a thumbs up, thumbs down really quick.
That's refreshing.
And he has never given us a thumbs down. He will tell us that that's not quite how it works, or he will tell us that, you know, honestly, you should probably do this vehicle instead of this one because this one's way more interesting. And this is why it's more interesting. For the motorcycles, you know, it's like, you know, right now you're looking at like the CD Projekt Red stuff, and you've got the super fast ninja-like bikes where people are going around. But one of the bikes that a lot of people are using, the Nomads, are basically taking, you know, modified Harleys and covering everything that they've gathered up in the wastelands, and they're driving around. So it's almost more like a Jeep full of backpacks and gear, and, you know, there's a box, you know, an old milk crate full of, you know, cyber parts on the back. You got people running around, you know, so, you know, you got trauma team running around, which is, you know, if you can afford it, here comes your spec ops team to save the day and make sure you're not dead. And if you can't afford it, maybe you're calling. You know, there's some old school stuff that, you know, people might not be aware of. It's super fun.
And a big difference between making a miniatures range for a role-playing game versus a war game is that, you know, the miniatures are there to spark the player's imagination. You know, well, you can run a cyberpunk game that's in the slums of Night City, that's in the penthouses of Night City. You can run a cyberpunk game that's out in the deserts of Arizona. But, you know, it's up to you. So, you know, we're hoping to put stuff out there that's going to spark people's imagination. It's not a complete. It's never for any role playing system. It's never going to be a complete range. There's no such thing. Like you were saying earlier, guys. You can't make every figure because there's an infinite number of figures out there. But we can make enough figures to get people going.
As far as the terrain, terrain has always been one of the things that I've loved. So yeah, we're absolutely running down that path. We've actually been spending the last couple of days here working out our final connecting mechanisms that are making our big color walls and buildings all be able to connect together and work. And then, we've got mock-ups in here. I wouldn't let you take pictures, but you definitely put out a little bit, checking out what we got. But, have you seen a pool table? Have you seen a full bar with everything up behind the bar? Have you seen the LEDs that light everything up? Have you seen the mirrors in the place? Have you seen the fans that are actually working? Have you seen, we're going a little nuts. And while all of it isn't going to hit immediately, and it's definitely a long-term plan, because this is not a one and done. This is something I'm hoping for the next 10 years as we're going through.
Hell yeah.
We're working on building a sandbox right now.
And if you were at Gen Con or saw pictures from the booth at Gen Con, there was a really big 12-inch tall brick building behind the Cyberpunk.
Yeah, that's part of what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was an early prototype. It's not going to be exactly that, but that's the sort of thing that we're working on now, of large scale city buildings that come out of the box looking just like that. That come pre-painted.
Yeah, we've got them right now. You can take the four sides of a high-rise, slop in some stuff. You're literally building the building in under a minute, and it's full color. It's durable. It's ready to go, and when you're done, you just pull it apart. You throw it back your bag. It packs flat.
Man, you guys rock.
You guys are killing my bank account right now. You know that, right?
So we're doing all that, and then there's some really cool stuff. As we're sitting there doing all these cool cyber things, we are fans of the industry, not just a particular thing. I'm super excited to see Crisis when it comes out, and all these superhero models and stuff that. And what they're doing there.
Yeah.
If we drop a lot of the graffiti, a lot of the stuff crosses over, and now we need our fire escapes, and now we need the other things that everything can go. Because
that Marvel display at Gen Con was amazing.
Yeah.
That subway table that Rob Hawkins did.
Man,
somebody I used to work with at Games Workshop. He just did an incredible job on that subway table.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah. And I know back in, the early days of Gale Force 9, even when we were selling templates, we would build these tables that some of them were 6 and 7 foot high that had, full buildings and had signage hanging down the side and water towers and everything else. And we would cover it with 2 gorgeous armies. And we would do all of that to attract the attention so people would see the template on the table.
Was it Resolution? Was that?
That was a really cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day.
It didn't live long, but it was a cool game.
But it was kind of a cyberpunky universe. That table, I don't know if there's pictures kicking around the internet somewhere.
There are. I think.
What is it called? Resolution?
If you type GF9 Resolution table, there should be some pictures.
Resolution spelled with the R-E-Z.
But it was.
That's totally cyberpunk.
Yeah, we did a 3x3 foot or maybe 4x4 foot display table for them here. I mean, it's 10 years. It would not look out of place on with our current cyberpunk figures on it at all. And,
I'm looking at this Tokyo Techno, and it looks 100% cyberpunk. 100%. Everything about it is cyberpunk.
So you check all of that out, and that table looks really cool. And at the time, that was done with we jokingly said lasers and hate. But, we did that with lasers and paint. And now with the new tech that we have to be able to do other things, we're real big on mixing materials and mixing genres and doing different sort of stuff. So the stuff we were doing back then, now we can actually do full color. So the new stuff that's full color, not just full color, but full color textured. So, I want people to look at this stuff and just be blown away by it. And play with some really gorgeous tables. I know, I'm a big fan of the local retail store. And, it's getting harder and harder for retail stores to make a buck with, Amazon and eBay and everybody else.
Oh yeah, I mean, just saying that you're gonna open one up is just people just look at you like you're crazy,
Exactly. And people normally don't do it for money. They do it because they really want to just hang out with them and have a store and kind of do it. And they just want to do it. So if you can have this incredibly gorgeous table in the middle of the store that's going to bring people in so they can play, I feel like I'm helping the stores out, because if it is so good, I think a lot of people are going to be able to, they're going to buy the stuff and build little stuff. But when you have a store, that's getting stuff at, half price, and they're getting at their cost, and then they can build this 4x6 crazy thing that's 4 foot tall. That's the centerpiece, and people come in like, oh my goodness, let's check this out.
Yeah.
And kind of go from there.
Well, so what can you guys tell us about? I mean, we were talking about the future of Monster Fight Club, but with the advent of the internet and social media and Twitch and everything, do you guys have any plans for Monster Fight Club to be out there in that space? Or what any other plans that you guys have for the future?
I mean, we certainly try to keep people updated without inundating people with information, kind of like to speak when we have something to say. And that being said, we post pretty regularly on Instagram, Facebook.
Those are the two big ones.
Yeah, we send out a newsletter when we have announcements. You can on monsterfightclub.com. You can jump on our newsletter, keep you up to date about any new releases.
That's probably the best place to go, because we send out emails, maybe twice a month, maybe that are going out there. One of the next hires that we want to do here is, like anything, it's about cash flow. The next person I really need is a social media manager,
because there's pros of us all being beardy, older, dyed in the wool gamers, but it also means that we didn't grow up as we didn't grow up.
That's part of why I asked you guys, because I totally get it. I'm in that middle generation where I grew up without cell phones and the internet, and then right when I hit 13, 14, all that stuff blew up. So I know what it's like before and after. I just want to know how you guys relate to this whole boom with the internet.
We tend to preview cool stuff on Instagram and then make it official on our newsletter. So if you want to really keep up to date with every little thing, check us out on Instagram. And then if you just kind of want us to tell you when you're ready to buy something, jump on our newsletter.
Yeah. And we put a lot of stuff on Facebook as well as we're going, especially if there's a Kickstarter, because we tend to put it out there. But it's Aaron and I, but we're not the only two. We've got 9 full-time people right now.
Wow.
And
that's
Katie,
a monumental task, man.
Yeah. And Katie, our, she's kind of our art director. She's phenomenal, and she's relatively young. She's sub 30, and with her purple hair, and looks great. She comes in, and you talk about someone who's organized. You give her a list, and she just plows through it. And she's very creative. She's good at managing other people. We had an intern this summer. She did a wonderful job for us. We're hoping she comes back next year and works when she graduates. She goes to school down at SCAD. We have Joe, who's working here now, who's really good at taking some of the equipment we have and finding uses for it that we haven't done before.
Well, shout out to the subordinates.
Yeah, well, I say that, I try not to run the office that way. It's more of we're all in this together. So if we want to survive another year, that's all we need to do it. So, when we go to shows, we shut the office down. Everybody comes. And, so when you're running demos and stuff, chances are you're dealing with the person who did the graphics. You're dealing with the person that, was doing some laser cutting. You're dealing with the person that's making neoprene mats. You're dealing with the people that's dealing with the sourcing. The team's not that big. And, when we headed out to Gen Con, we got a big van, a 15-person van. We loaded up everything in the back, and we all jumped in.
That's
and
awesome.
Everybody that was local, I'll tell you, when you're all stuck in a car for like 9 hours driving to a show, it's amazing how much creativity comes out of it, because suddenly your brains are free to think about stuff rather than the next task that has to be knocked off the line. And you come up with the next year's stuff. We used to go, when Sean was around, we'd go to Gen Con and come back with 2 or 3 brand new game ideas by the time the trip was done. Then you'd have to figure out what to focus on, and then you would move on to the next one. And today it's not better, it's not worse, it's just different.
Yeah.
And so now we're trying to take the lessons we learned, apply them, and I love having younger people work with us because it keeps you young. I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here in my Spider-Man T-shirt, hanging out on a Sunday.
Well, this stuff that all of this stuff is ageless. I have a 1-year-old son, and I just can't wait until I can get him into tabletop gaming and all this stuff, because there's no age set for any of this stuff. Everyone can enjoy it.
Yep, and it really doesn't go bad. If you haven't seen it before, it's new to you.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. That's one of the most amazing points that you make. Somebody can get introduced to D&D 5e right now today, and to them, a whole new world has just opened up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's my older daughter is 11, and she has the full stack of all the 5e manuals. She plays D&D with her friends after. And, it's like, oh, the tables have turned. Like, I now feel for my parents. I both love her to death, and I'm excited that she is so into D&D, but sometimes it's like, oh, kiddo, like, I can't hear about your magic squirrel familiar anymore. Like, enough.
Sounds like an awesome person, to be honest.
Yeah, so I'm sure when I was 11, I'm sure I talked to my parents' ear off about my
You're like, what?
And it's like,
I regret all this.
So I know we're winding down a little bit here. So just a quick recap. So the Monster Scenery Kickstarter we did, we are ahead of schedule for where we need to be on everything. So that will be shipping sooner than later, and we will be out before the deadline that we gave ourselves when we did it. And I think everybody's going to be really happy with how everything looks. We have a bunch of the actual production samples here right now. We're doing some last minute paint tweaks, just to make sure that everything looks the way we expected it to when it comes through. All the plastics have been complete, which was a monumental task. So the production on that is going to crank up relatively quickly. It will be out sooner than we got Essen coming up next week. I will be in Essen. We don't have a booth, but we're going to be over there talking to our partners, our distribution partners and whatnot, and letting them know when things are going to be available. So we are starting to take pre-orders now for Monster Scenery and for the Tentacle Town board game, which was successful on Kickstarter. Yeah,
it ended today, right? Or it says ends today in your latest news.
No, it ended a little while ago.
That's the manager. So it ended maybe a month ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is the manager that's open right now. So we're just getting the last couple of people that haven't bought in. The other people that are doing their add-ons and stuff. But that's going. Everything is done. It's just going off to the printers probably in the next week.
Yeah.
And so,
So people can go to monsterfightclub.com for all the information they need on news, Kickstarters, gallery, everything you need there. They have a shop.
Yeah, all that good stuff. And as soon as the stuff gets sent to the factory, normally it's like you put all your focus on one particular thing. Once it goes off to the printer, then we shift focus back to taking everything that we prepared for the printer and starting to put pictures and stuff online so you can see what we did and where we're going with. So as far as the Cyberpunk stuff goes, as I said, we're approaching 50 figures right now, and I think I can safely say we're not halfway there yet.
Wow.
We still got more to do. The scenery and stuff that's going to go along with that is, I would say, 80% of the way there. We've got prototypes of everything. We're really happy with it. Now we're more graphics work. Now we're doing more add-on pieces. We try not to do anything standalone. We try to do it so that, it's got multiple uses. Everything that we do, we don't want to have just one thing that's used for something. We want to be able to use it in multiple things. So we're trying to put that together. We're probably going to be doing some terrain in other scales other than the scale that we're working in right now. Project we're doing, some of the stuff's going to be smaller. We are also doing some collectible statues that we're going to be able to talk about in the relative near future.
Wow.
One of the fun things we're doing, which we call Monster Plush. We're going to do a whole range of stuffed animal creatures and monsters.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now,
with a nerdy bent.
yeah, with a nerdy to it. So,
Like beholders and
Town.
things like that.
Not beholders.
Not beholders,
that would be a D&D.
Yeah, D&D TM, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes. So, but, to do, things that you've seen in other role-playing games, to do our spin on things. We have our beast, which is kind of our Yeti creature. That is our logo.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably be seeing one of him coming on. You might see the unholy union of an owl to turn into something cool, which looks kind of neat.
We got our factory sample, the one of the add-ons in the Tentacle Town Kickstarter, 13-inch tall plush tentacle.
Yes.
We just got the first factory sample back on that. That's pretty fun stuffed animal. There's just a 14-inch high green stuffed tentacle.
That's cool.
we have the Grabby Tabby, which is kind of this chibi-esque kitten that's got multiple tentacles coming off of its back. That's a very cool.
That's cool. I like that. It's I have a kid, so might be right up his alley. We never know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's that sort of stuff is fun. And then we do a lot of stuff for other people. The Rolodex is 20 years old. So there Beetle and Grimm's out there, we've helped them with some stuff. There's a lot of other people out there where, whether it has our name on it or not, we are out there supporting other people so that they can do cool stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we have going on. And then games or anything.
Sit tight on that
You
for a
sit tight
second.
on that.
Almost got in
we
trouble there.
exclusives.
have prototypes on the table.
You almost got in trouble there.
That's why I asked. He keeps me honest.
Can we expect
for you.
any Cyberpunk Kickstarters?
I honestly can't tell you the answer to that. While I would love to do it, I think it would be the coolest thing ever to do that. We're just trying to decide is that the right way we want to go to this one. There's some licensing things going on that and some restrictions on what we can and can't do.
And retailers don't always love Kickstarters either. Cyberpunk is such an established brand that we need. If we just put Cyberpunk stuff in retail stores, people will get it, Kickstarter is an awesome tool for launching new products, but it's not necessarily one size fits everything.
The wonderful thing about Kickstarter is that tooling is really expensive. So when you're doing a range of plastics, if you can have the public, help you make tools quicker than you normally could, that's a big plus. And the terrain was a big part of that. It's, because of the success of the Kickstarter, we added more steel tools to the range that we probably wouldn't have gotten to for another year or two.
Yeah.
So that lets us get the stuff out to market more quickly. And, it's more stuff for people to enjoy. But it also, for the stores too, though, if the distributors aren't buying enough to justify the production run, it's really hard to decide, I can't afford the tools if they buy enough to have for the stores.
Yeah.
So it's this balancing act. We're also big fans of high-end resin. We actually have a resin production shop here in-house. So, we can do shorter runs of things. For us to cast 1,000 of something in-house, that's not bad. If we have to do 10,000 of something, that takes up the time.
Okay. So you guys can do like exclusive limited edition stuff on the fly anytime.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of what we'll do also is, I would say, if we ended up making 100 figures, it might take 3 or 4 years before those 100 figures are out to market. So you decide which ones are going to be the core for that you're doing. But all of the fringe stuff, and the name characters and stuff like that, those are just way easier to, to have your prototype and put it in the silicone, and next thing you got 50 of them in your hand. So when you're at trade shows and stuff, people can come by and, they can get excited about things they might not be able to get elsewhere. We can see by putting stuff out, are people excited about particular things? We might come up with an idea that we only sell 10 of. Maybe it's not worth running that new product. And then we'll have something else that we 100 of and we sell out in the first 2 hours. And you're like, okay, that was way quicker than expected. We should probably do more of those.
Yeah, what you're talking about, I had read an article, and I know we're winding down, so we'll just keep it short here. But Games Workshop, for the longest time, I thought, that their price point was way too high. It wasn't until I read an article by someone smarter than me that pretty much said the challenges that they have is they have to print pieces of stuff that doesn't sell because they have to keep that brand going. So they'll spend money and take a loss on pieces that never sell just because that's part of what they do. Do you guys have any of those challenges?
That's a challenge for any business. I mean,
right.
There's risk in making any product. I think that in general, I feel like, I don't know, maybe this is my getting older and my friends getting older and getting, earning a little more money. My sense is that price complaints about hobby stuff has gone down in recent years. People have realized that it takes money to make cool stuff. It takes money to pay creative people. It takes money to do anything. Cheap stuff is cheap and expensive stuff is cool, usually. And, they're not jet skis. These aren't $10,000, jet skis or, $100,000 power boats or anything. This is as far as hobbies go. It's not that much money for how much fun.
Of course. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And that's why that article had changed my mind on a lot of things because of exactly what you guys are saying. There's so many variables when it comes to this type of business.
I remember this is actually when I used to work at Games Workshop. I remember one of the folks there saying, every time somebody complains that the product is too expensive, it means that they think it's cool, but they can't afford it. You don't complain about it. You don't complain that something's expensive if you don't want it.
Exactly.
I don't look at some solid gold pair that Tiffany's is selling and think that's ridiculous. $50,000. I don't want that. I don't care.
Yeah.
I only complain about stuff being expensive when I really want it.
Yeah.
It's not to say that we're trying to make expensive stuff. We want to get stuff in as many hands as possible. But the price, it is what it is. You look at how much it costs to manufacture it, and you multiply that by a certain number, and you end up with a retail price. Everyone's just trying to get it into people's hands for what they need to sell it.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. There's not a real secret formula for how it works. It's something costs X, therefore it must be Y at retail. You can't sell it through. Period.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, 9 people are not cheap to pay on a monthly basis along with the building, with all the raw materials. So you have this, call it the money that has cleared. So, all of that has to be done.
I thought that that was very insightful. The challenge that even though they know a set doesn't sell well, they still have to print pallets of them. They have to make pallets of them because that's just part of their business.
You have to make pallets of them, and also a lot of times if you don't make pallets, you can't get the price you need to do it. A lot of board games are out. Someone who's making a $60 board game, if they make 1,000 of them, it would be 4 times more than maybe if they printed 10,000 of them, because it's that price per, and the more you can make, the cheaper things get. And sometimes you can make a lot of money by printing a bigger run. So you have to decide, all right, I'm going to tie this run, but now rather than making 10% on a particular sale, I'm going to make 50% on a particular sale. Yeah. And you need that 50% in order to pay your employees and keep the lights on.
So the more Cyberpunk miniatures you buy, the cheaper they get. That's what John is saying.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't think you guys have to worry about that because people are really loving Cyberpunk right now. It's something that people are really enjoying. we're seeing, the results of that, and it's so awesome that we can meet people like you guys in this industry. And it's really refreshing that you guys are just one of us. You're just like us. And I think that everybody listening knows that you guys are legit, that you guys are just trying to make the best product available for people like you guys. And everybody out there, you should be going to monsterfightclub.com, looking at their social media, following them, signing up to their newsletter, and seeing how you can support them because they deserve it.
Yeah, and get in touch. If there's something you want to see, there's something, a favorite character, a thing that you've got your heart set on, we're not making any promises, but shoot us a line. I mean, we're here.
I have a request. We need a maximum Mike fixer is what we need. Mike Pondsmith fixer. Let's do it.
That would be fun.
Yeah, it's funny how
that sounds like a show. That sounds like a show special.
We were just talking about that.
The word is that Mike doesn't like the spotlight on him, but I think it would be a huge favor to the fans if something like that existed.
I could not agree more.
All right. Anything else you wanted to ask him, Luke?
I guess the only other question is maybe, are you guys doing the minis for the Friday Night Firefight board game?
Are we going to do for the Friday night? That's a definite maybe. There you go. Gotcha. But yeah, no, we're excited about all the stuff we're working on, as you might expect. It's wonderful to come to work every day and enjoy what you're doing.
That's awesome.
We put in a lot of time, sometimes more on a particular day, but at the end of the day, though, it all works out.
Well, hey, man, you guys are an inspiration to me, and it was really awesome having you guys here. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out to talk to us about what you guys do, and I can't wait to see what's in the future for you guys.
No, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
it's been fun.
And let's follow up once some stuff hits the market.
Sure, yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Sounds great. We would be honored to have you guys on again to talk about stuff. And, hopefully maybe in the future we can meet each other at one of these cons, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we go to just about all of them. So just ping me and let me know when you're going to be there, and I'm sure we can set up a time.
All right.
We'll do it.
Anything else, Luke?
No, I think that does it. I'm really glad I got to get this interview out of the way, because when I was at Gen Con, I talked with Mike, and then I talked to somebody at your booth, and ever since then, I've regretted not interviewing somebody there. So I'm really glad that we got to get this done.
Perfect.
Very cool.
All right, guys. We'll say thank you on our end. We'll see you guys next time, and we'll see you
in the dark future.
You like that? You like that?
Nice.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks.
Good. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.